Good to go? All righty, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for Meetup tonight. It's a very hot button topic, so pretty cool. My name is Joe, Business Development Associate here at RBN, and I got to demonstrate how we use the catch box here. So if there's any questions at all throughout the presentation here, just raise your hand. We will literally toss it. And when you do need to talk into it, you have to talk directly into it like this. So if you're holding like this, it's not gonna, the mic won't catch. Even like this, no. You've really gotta speak into it like you've really got something to say. So without any further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Kyle with this awesome topic. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. Skip the slide and do an intro. My name is Kyle Robertson. I am a site reliability engineer at GitHub. I've been there for about a year. It'll be a year in June. So, and then previously Rocket Mortgage for 6 years. Outside of software engineering, I like to play guitar. I like to drive on a yacht in the summer. And I don't know, I'm just talking about things. So that's me. But yeah, today we're going to talk about integrating ChatGPT with Discord, which is pretty cool. Cool, so we'll get started. We can skip about me, because we already talked about that. So I talked about ChatGPT and Discord, so I might as well talk about those a little bit to give more context. So let's talk about Discord first. How many people here have used Discord? Okay, all right. Yeah, so everybody knows what it is. Chat application used by many different groups of people for many different things. And I got a statistic, and the last statistic they published, they have 140 million active monthly users. So quite a few. ChatGPT, everybody knows what ChatGPT is, created by OpenAI. It's a conversational tool that can basically assist you with anything. And it's estimated to have 100 million monthly users. That's a lot of users for such a short amount of time. It's pretty impressive. So why would we want to mix Discord with ChatGPT? Well, there's a few reasons. I mean, if you've got 100 million users and 150 million users, there's probably going to be some kind of overlap. You know, as a Discord user, it'd be cool just to be able to type within Discord and be like, hey, I'm going to ask some questions and get that interface within Discord. And lastly, it's just fun to hack around and do something, right? So let's talk a little bit about how this is going to work. So it's really simple. Essentially, as a Discord user, you are going to use something called slash commands. So it's just like slash and then like an input, like start chat. In this case, it'll be start chat. That command is sent from your Discord client to a Discord server. It forwards that interaction to an API gateway, and then there's a Lambda function that does the actual handling of interfacing with OpenAI. So we're going to go through the process together. So there's kind of 4 steps to this here. There's configuring the Discord bot, deploying the infrastructure, deploying the code, and then trying it out. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start on the Discord side of things. So when you want to work on something for Discord as a developer, you go to discord.com/developer. And it's going to take you to this page where you have a set of applications. You can see I already have a bunch of applications here because I've worked on some other stuff. But we're going to go ahead and make a new application. And we are going to call it ChatGPT bot. And by clicking this, we agree. All right, so we have our bot here. So we're going to need a couple things right off the bat here. So they give you some information like your application ID, your public key, what you're going to need when we send requests. We need to validate those requests based off the signature that Discord gives us. So we're going to use our public key to do that. And there's also this interactions URL endpoint. Once we create our infrastructure, that's when we're going to take our API gateway URL basically and plop it in here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to set a couple things that we need to set ahead of time here. So we're going to export our user ID. And we are going to export our public key. Cool. All right. So the next step is we need to basically tell this thing that this is a bot. So to do that, you conveniently go to bot and you click on add bot. And it's going to basically say, hey, by making a bot, you're going to make it so it shows up as like a user in Discord essentially once you add it to a server. So let's do it. So we need our 2FA codes. Somebody can hand me my phone, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Very welcome.
So let's get that 2FA code. Very exciting. Let's see. Let's see if I can beat the timer. I did it. I beat the timer. All right, cool. So we've registered as a bot now. So we don't really need to do anything else here. But we do need to add our bot to our server and give it certain permissions. So to do that, we're going to go to OAuth 2, and then we're going to go to URL generator. And this is going to ask us what scopes that we need. So in this case, since we're a bot, we need bot scope. And then it's going to give you like what permissions that you want to give. So in this case, we need a couple things. We need to send a message or be able to send messages. We need to be able to create public threads because we're going to use the thread feature in Discord to contain our chats. And then we need to also be able to send messages in threads. So with each of those that you check, you're going to get a generated URL at the bottom that will add your bot to a server with those permissions. So we'll copy that and go ahead and throw it in here. And it's going to say, hey, we're going to add this bot to your selected server. So I'm going to select my bot testing server. It will not buy you a nice seafood dinner. I'm sorry. If you want that, you're going to have to go to a competitor, I guess. And it'll just remind you what permissions you're giving. So we'll authorize. I think I'm a human. All right, cool. So we've done that. So now we've authorized our bot. And if we go into Discord, you will see we now have this ChatGPT bot sitting here hanging out. So we actually need one more thing from this page. Not this page, but from this general Discord area. So we're going to go to bot, and we need our token. So I'm going to copy that token, and I'm going to set it. And before anybody asks, I'm going to delete this bot as soon as we're done here. So don't get any wild ideas. Oops.
Memorizing it.
Yeah, memorize it. Yeah, hurry up and memorize it. You got enough time. You got enough time. So all right. Cool. So that's the last thing we need from this page. So that's everything for now until we've provisioned our infrastructure. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to pull up the project here, and we're going to walk through that a little bit. So so I have my code for the actual bot in our source directory, and I have our infrastructure in the infrastructure directory. So I'm using Amazon CDK to set this up. So it does a couple things here. So we set up our Lambda function first. I upload some boilerplate code, and I set some environment variables that we need. I'm using Go, so I'm using the Go runtime. I don't know why this keeps like flickering. And I need to set the timeout to like 15 seconds because OpenAI can be very slow, unfortunately. So I found that out the hard way when I was testing this. The next thing is we need an API gateway. Specifically, we're going to use the HTTP API gateway. And we need to link that to our Discord Lambda. And then we're going to add a route that integrates with that Lambda integration. And the last thing is once we're done creating that, we need both the API gateway execution URL and the Lambda ARN, because we need those for setting up the API gateway integration in Discord. And then we also need to set our Lambda ARN for our deployment of the code itself. So let's go ahead and deploy this code. So I have a make file already set up, so we'll do make deploy. So that's going to go ahead. I don't know if has anybody or have people used CDK before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, CDK is really nice. I actually like it more than Terraform in some ways, just because you kind of can like work in a coding language you're like more used to. But it's going to tell us like, hey, we're going to create these things. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm pretty sure I want to do this. So we'll go ahead and do it. In the back, behind the scenes, it uses CloudFormation. So there's a CloudFormation stack that's managed, and it will manage all these resources. And then it also creates like a temp file to kind of like keep track of like the manifest and all that stuff. So this should just take a minute. I always like the when they have a progress bar in the terminal. It's really cool. They should do like an AWS ASCII art though. That would make it even better. All right. So it looks like we are about done here. Excellent, we are done. I probably should make sure to update my CDK later on. So yeah, so it's created everything for us. It's given us our two things that we need. We need our API gateway execution URL, and we need our Lambda ARN. So I'm going to take this Lambda ARN ahead of time because I need to put it in my deploy script. All right. All right, and then I'll talk a little bit next, before we deploy our code, I'll talk a little bit through how this bot works in the code. So since it's a Lambda, there's just our main handler that's going to actually like be the driver for a lot of things here. So with Discord, it will send both, like when you do an interaction, like if I do a / command, it will send a request then, but it's also sending ping requests every once in a while to make sure that you're like still active. And when you first set up your integration, it will basically send a handful of requests, both valid and invalid, to make sure that you've set up everything right to verify the token that they give you and verify the signature. There are libraries that will do this for you. So like, for example, in JavaScript, there's Discord.js. There is ones for Python. There are ones for Go. But I found that they were more focused not necessarily on like the sort of interactions where you're sending a request to Discord, but more of like the webhook, because you can also do like a webhook where it's like continuously listening. And that actually gives you more integrations, but this is easier to set up. So this is why I went with the interactions HTTP style. But so unfortunately, I couldn't make use of the library, so I had to kind of roll with my own. So they send you a signature and a timestamp. So essentially, you just have to take that along with your public key and decode the signature and validate that it's correct. And if it's not, you got to return an error. And if it is correct, if it is valid, then we start handling like what kind of requests were sent. Discord will actually send both valid and invalid when they do their first validation. So you can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to return what they expect and be done with it. Like they actually do really check. Yeah, so once we've done the validation, we want to see what kind of interaction that we're getting. So this is what I was talking about, this ping interaction. This is sort of the like, hey, are you still active? Are you still live? That they do every once in a while. And you just have to return like a type of one to say like, hey, yep, I'm good, I'm alive. Otherwise, you're generally getting our commands because we're doing our / commands. So what we need to do is we need to like sort of fetch the command that the interaction provides and figure out what we need to do based on that. So there's sort of two commands that we're working with here. We're going to do a start chat command, and that's going to be for starting our chat with ChatGPT. And with that, we're going to, so something about Discord is when you do a / command, Discord expects you to initially respond within like a really short period of time. So oftentimes if something's going to take a long time, so for example, like doing a ChatGPT request, you want to send sort of like an initial like, hey, I'm acknowledging your request, so that Discord's not like, oh, you're timed out, you're done. So that's what we're doing here. We're saying like, hey, we acknowledge that we've gotten the request, so don't worry, we're gonna work on it. Then from there, we actually start the chat. So when we start the chat, we do a couple things. We make use of threads in Discord. So with Discord, there's like, general channels, and then within channels, you can create threads that are kind of like their own like sub-channel where a conversation can go on about something specific. And in this case, we make use of them because we don't want to clutter the like general channels with things. And also, we're going to make use of all the inputs and outputs from the chat to feed in, since ChatGPT uses that context. All right. So essentially, we create a new thread. We add the user that ran the command to the thread, and then we call out to OpenAI to answer their initial prompt. Yeah, and then we return a response to satisfy the end of the request. And the other command that we're going to use is reply. So reply is going to be used when we want to continue the conversation. Essentially, when we reply, we're going to check a couple things. So first, we're going to check to see if they're using a thread. And then that thread was created by OpenAI, or the OpenAI, the chatbot. Because if it's not, then we don't have any data to actually use. So if it's not a thread and it wasn't created by our bot user, we're just going to be like, hey, you got to use a thread. Otherwise, we're going to take all the messages that were in the thread, and we're going to essentially take each of those and categorize them between either messages from the user or messages from the bot. When you send your messages to ChatGPT, you give them a category, or essentially a role. So as a user, your role is user. ChatGPT's role is assistant. There's one other role, I forgot what it's called, but it seemed like generally like user and assistant are kind of the two roles you want to use. So we take all those messages, we categorize them, we append them to like the list of messages we're going to send to ChatGPT. We actually send the request, and we take the new message, and then we send it in as a reply in the thread. So yeah, that's basically the flow. So let's go ahead and deploy our code. So I have in our makefile, I have deploy. Well, actually, one thing we need to do before that is we need to deploy the commands. So with slash commands, you have to deploy them to a server or globally. In this case, we're just going to deploy them to our own server. And I'll show that real quick. So I made a little like Go script to do this for us. And essentially, we set up our command. So when you set up a command, you have to say like, hey, what's the name of the command? What's the description? And then what kind of options does it take? So you can have different parameters, right? It can be like strings, numbers, etc. And you set whether you need to actually provide them or not. So in this case, our start chat command only takes one parameter, a prompt, and it is required. A reply also takes one prompt, which is the actual reply that you want to send to ChatGPT. And what we're doing is, for each of the commands that we have registered, we're going to go ahead and just push them to the server. And then they'll show up as options in our server. So I'll show that real quick. So if we do make deploy commands, and then what was the flag? Oops. Make deploy. Oh. There we go. Okay. So now, if we go here and I type in like /, you'll see we have our new start chat and reply commands. But right now they don't do anything because we don't have our integration set up. All right, so now let's go ahead and deploy the code. All right, so we will do make deploy. That's going to build our project and then update our Lambda with the newest code, and then it's going to do some cleanup. So now we have our latest code deployed. The last thing we need to do before we can test this thing out is actually set up our integration URL, and inconveniently I cleared that out. So let's go to the console and grab that real quick. All right. So we're going to grab this, and then we're going to go back to the Discord developer portal. And under general information, there's this interactions endpoint. So if you paste this in, just show as an example, if I just put in like some garbage, right, and I try to save it, it does validations, and it's like, nope, we couldn't verify. So we'll put in our URL, save. And once it's valid, it'll say all your edits have been carefully recorded, so very important. So now we are ready to actually test this thing out. So let's do start chat, and let's ask it, let's see, tell me about Detroit. Let's just do Detroit. Oops. So you'll see it starts a thread right here, and then it will put in some text once it's decided that it's done. Sometimes this takes a while. Yep, so it gives you information about Detroit here, and it's all in this interface. So, you know, blah, blah, blah. I want to know what's cool to do in Detroit, so I'm going to reply. The best spots to visit in Detroit. Or visit there. We'll do there. And then it's going to generate a reply. Again, unfortunately, ChatGPT can be slow, so we'll have to give it a moment. And there you go. Gives you some exciting things to do. We could go to Henry Ford Museum. We could go to Belle Isle. But yeah, that's basically it. We can ask it too what its favorite programming language is and see what it says. Or actually, what do you think of Google Bard? Let's see what it says. If it replies, it might be like, as an AI, I have no opinion. Yeah, as an AI, I have no personal opinion. Okay. I do like this sentence though. Generating rhyming patterns, lyrical structures, and poetic expressions. That reminds me, I read a sentence today about writing, and the wording was, writing is like, what was it? Wording is like laxative of the brain or something like that. Very interesting metaphor, but I guess it kind of makes sense, interestingly enough. But yeah, that's basically it. I can send a link to the code. Let me pull up my GitHub real quick. I can put it in the Great Lakes Tech community, which, by the way, if you haven't joined the Great Lakes Tech community, you should join. I gotta put that prompt in so I, don't lose my special ambassadorship. Yeah. Here we go. So yeah, so I'll throw this in. You can download it. I'd tell you what you need to set. I could probably put a little more tutorial in there, but yeah, feel free to pull it, deploy it, hack on it. Yeah. Any questions? Oh, we got a couple questions.
Hey, Kyle.
Hey.
I was wondering, like, what if you prompt it for code advice? Because when ChatGPT Web UI, it gives you like the beautiful code formatting. So if you did it in Discord, could you give us example of what it would show?
Yeah. So right now it's not going to do any special formatting. I can tell you that right now. That would be like a nice future. So like if I did like start chat, write a program to output hello world. Unless it like Discord does some auto magic, it's probably not gonna. Yeah. Oh, actually, they did. Thank you, Discord. Thank you.
Nice.
All right. What's up?
I was wondering, in order to access ChatGPT's API, you need to have some kind of API token from them.
Yes.
Are they requiring you to sign up for ChatGPT Plus in order to get an API key with them?
So this is what's interesting. So using their AI to interface with ChatGPT and ChatGPT Plus are two different things. So if you use their AI, you get so many requests free per month. Otherwise, you have to sign up for a paid account, and you pay for what you use. So honestly, if you're comfortable interfacing with an API, it's probably cheaper to use the API route than to sign up for their Plus thing. So, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I can keep going.
Huh? What was I going to ask? Oh boy, we're drawing a blank.
We can have ChatGPT ask me questions.
With the AI, with the API,
Yep.
can you tweak how it responds to things? Can you talk about that? Because
Yeah.
I use it daily for my workflow, and it's always like the polite, ChatGPT voice, and you can kind of tell it, to have a different tone and stuff. But like with the API, like let's say I wanted to create a channel in my Discord that was just like a technical help desk channel. Mm-hmm. So if people put in questions like, what's your favorite color? It'd be like, well, that's not a technical question. Could you, this, I'm a bot that's programmed to answer more technical questions, but, thanks for trying to screw with me.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So yeah, they expose a option like it's called temperature, and that essentially it's a value from 0 to 1, and that kind of like controls how, for lack of a better term, hinged or unhinged it's going to be. So 1 is like the very polite default, but you can go closer to 0, and that's more kind of like, we'll give you the responses that are a little more, I don't know, edgy is not the right term, but like a little more interesting. So you do have control of that. Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I didn't see your code, but you said something about the conversation history that I wanted to ask about.
Yeah.
So if you continue that dialogue, what to do there in New Detroit. Did you say that you're sending the entire history every time, or are you using? Cause don't they have in their API a way to do conversation IDs?
So that's a good question. They probably do. Right now, I think I have it set up to just send each message. They may have an option though to just say, hey, reference this conversation ID.
Okay, yeah.
That would be easier.
I think they do, but I'm not sure if I was using the same API as you.
Yeah.
But.
They just released the ChatGPT interface not a couple weeks ago, because it used to just be asking a single question. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. They may have made changes since I last looked at it.
Okay. So over time, it might start to slow a little bit because I'm assuming it's got to process
Yeah.
the entire. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like you start a new context over.
Right.
Right.
You give it everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Cool. Any other questions?
That's a good question. I wondered.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for your time. Again, I'll put the link in the Great Lakes Tech Community Discord. More than welcome to pull it, hack on it, and have fun with it. So, yeah, thank you, everybody.